When all this happened to you, that you said that light globe moment, you've got a letter there. You wrote a letter to your wife, did you? And finally said things.
Look, that was just a letter that I wrote to her for her 40th birthday, and she.
Yeah.
Look, it was a very, very turbulent, stressful, tough year for her. Finding out all the things she found out about, that her husband of 16, 17 years and partner of 20 years led a second double life type thing, was devastating. And she decided to, was her 40th last year, she just decided to leave it for a happier year.
Has that year come?
It's better. Look, we're in a lot better position. It's because of my recovery and my ongoing recovery and my, I guess, me being active in recovery.
Yeah.
I'm doing my best at it.
You came to the Collingwood Football Club and asked for help. It must have been hard for you to bring up, even though friends and acquaintances spoke to me, spoke to Gary Pert. For a proud man and having gone through all that, how did that feel, and have you been surprised or exhilarated by the level of support from everyone that's come into your life in recent times?
I wouldn't know where to start on how to thank you, especially in the footy club. Murray Brown at the Collingwood past players, just fantastic. The initial phone calls to you guys, very, very humbling experience. And addicts don't want to ask for help either. It's a very hard situation to admit to our problem in the end. But thankfully I was able to do that.
Tell us about your life now, because a couple of weeks ago you stood up in front of the 2012 Collingwood team, young guys. Chris Tarrant told me he could not believe it. Chris Tarrant was a young man when you were leaving. He was carrying Gavin Brown, who was, at the time you were being carried off the ground at that MCG. There's a young man there. He said he could not believe that you as a senior player was a drugged addict at that stage, and your words just resonated throughout the club when you spoke to the players. First of all, what did you say to them, and why are you saying it to them?
Look, I think from personal experience, the more open I can be about my situation, I hope I'm able to help others in that regard. It's about opening up the awareness, I guess, because it's just not in footy clubs. It's a community issue, and I look at the Jeff Kennett situation with Beyond Blue. It made it easier for men to go and seek help. Well, I hope me doing, or a part of me doing this, might help others get help as well.
How do you look back on yourself? I mean, you're still beating yourself up, or have you taken a step now to say, right, OK, here's who I am at 44 years of age, and I'm going to go forward into the unknown, but I'm going to go forward with a different outlook on life?
I was given the opportunity last year. It was a life-changing experience by going into a rehab. I've had fantastic support around me. I had 24-hour or 24/7 support for 4 months while my wife was at home looking after our 3 kids, trying to work and all that sort of stuff. I need to look forward. Look, as I said at the start, I've got huge. My greatest regret is how I've hurt my wife. Other than that, I can't look back. I'm proud of the footy career I had. Could it have been better if I wasn't doing what I was doing? Well, you would think so.
Yeah. The drugs certainly didn't help you play better, did they?
Who knows? Well, yeah. I wasn't using it to help me do that. I need to look forward and look, with my study, as in I'm studying in AOD, I'm really, really passionate about helping others. I just see it as such an untapped issue. I don't believe there's enough support out there. There's not enough funding in regards to helping people in need. There's certain areas that you can get. I just don't know whether people realise what's out there.
OK, let's go to the next stage of your life. You are working in the area now. You are going down, you're working at RecLink, you're doing the courses. You've set yourself for a 2-year period to actually become an expert in this area. What do you want to achieve from it, and what do you think we all need to do collectively? Because this is a growing problem, it's not one that's going away.
Well, as I said, my main focus was opening up the awareness of addiction with alcohol and any drug, whatever it might be, and the issues that surround it, to help family members and support family members in regards to having or being aware of red flags with their loved ones. Is a really huge area that we can help people with.
What happens when the phone rings tonight and it's Tony Shaw or Craig Kelly or Peter Dacos, Lee Matthews, all those guys from the Collingwood days? What do you say to them when they ask, maybe, why didn't you ask for help or something like that? What are you going to say to them?
What am I going to say to them? It wasn't an option for me.
Yeah.
I didn't need help. I was okay. I was fine during my footy career. I was managing my life as best I could, and it was all okay.
You said to me when we were talking before the show, drug addicts don't have a choice. Can you explain that to us?
Well, I've learnt, and I now understand that I never had a choice. Addiction takes the choice away. I was always going to use, and I was always going to drink.
But if there had been the AFL drug policy around when you were playing, and they picked you up, might that have been a circuit breaker for you?
Look, it might have been. It might have brought my issue into my face very early. It's a hard question to answer. I couldn't really answer that one.
How lucky do you feel to have a wife like Nicole and your 3 beautiful kids?
Oh, look, I don't know where I would be without Nicole, and I'm very, very grateful she's been able to stick with me and hang in there. I'm sure the kids are happy that they've now got a father who's present in their lives. I certainly hope that they are, and we take it a day at a time. We work at it a day at a time.
You feeling optimistic about the future?
I do, Eddie, because I'm fully active in all the things that I'm doing. I communicate, I'm present. I've got a lot of goals and ambitions I want to fulfil.
And just to finish on, what are you actually doing now? Because you're involved in RecLink and you're getting involved in talking to players at the Collingwood Football Club, other areas like that, using your experience to shine a bit of a light on their future?
Look, I'd like to. RecLink have been absolutely fantastic support for me in helping me. I've been coaching the Salvo Hawks in the RecLink football competition, which is fantastic. They're 12-step based players, boys and girls, and they have a lot of fun. They really enjoy the time there, and we have a win and every now and again, and we have a loss every now and again. They really enjoy that stuff. Look, I think the Collingwood Community Centre, what the footy club are putting together, is a fantastic idea. Helping young kids in all ranges of things, not just addictions, but mental health and so forth. I'm open and willing to do anything. I'm getting my study done. I'm enjoying that, learning it from a different angle, a different perspective. And we'll wait and see where we go.
Well, Gav, I think you're remarkably courageous to come forward, and I should make the point that they certainly haven't been paid to do this interview, far from it, but you came to us and said that you wanted to get involved, one at the football club, and also that you wanted to, when the time was right, and we've spoken about this for probably the best part of 6 or 8 months now, when the time was right, you wanted to have your say because you wanted to open up the debate even further. It's a very courageous thing to do, to stand up and make a point on this. It's one thing telling your wife and your kids and those around you, but as a football star to come out and do it, it's a remarkable act of courage. Thank you for being part of the show tonight on EMT.
No worries, Ed. Thanks.
Go on there, Gav. Stick with us, mate, because I'd like you to join in the conversation. We're going to get a couple of experts on next to talk about drugs in the AFL, but also drugs in general. How do we intervene? How do we stop our sports stars ruining their lives through drugs? That's next on EMT. back to EMT, an extraordinary interview with Gavin Crosisca tonight, who has given of himself and his family for the greater good of trying to just figure out what people can do when they find themselves in the clutches of drug dependency. John Rogerson is the Chief Executive Officer of the Australian Drug Foundation. Matt Finnish is the Chief Executive Officer of the AFL Players Association. John, can I firstly ask you, in your position as Australian Drug Foundation CEO, you heard Gav's story there. What's your reaction?
It's sad, courageous, just fantastic having Gavin to talk about his story. Courageous, and just the amazing love that underpins all this with him and his wife, Nicole.
John, there were things that Gav couldn't answer because he's been living through it. From your point of view, what are the intervention? What should we be looking out for, and how do we intervene as parents, friends, administrators, not just in footy, but in general life?
Yeah. So before I answer that, can I just talk about this issue about treating this as a health issue?
Yeah.
The problem with illicit drugs is they're illegal, so therefore people see people who take illicit drugs as criminals. And what that does is it stops people like Gavin getting the support they need to deal with it. So I think one of the things that's really critical here for all of us as a community is Gavin's got a health problem, and in order to help other people in the community, we need to stop seeing them as criminals, but seeing them with a problem with using drugs, and then let's support them and help them. And clearly that's what has enabled Gavin to deal with this issue in the last 18 months. But people who use drugs really struggle with it, and you've seen Gavin's story talking about how he hid it, and part of that is the fear of being caught and exposed. So that's one thing as a community we can do, is actually support these people rather than treat them as criminals.
Was that an issue, Gav, that the fear of being exposed as being a drug addict when you're playing and coaching?
Oh, the embarrassment and the shame underneath it was there. Not the criminal aspect, no. Yeah. I didn't think a second thought about that. It was more the fact of my profile and what I was doing as a job.
Matt, as the Players Association, that's a big issue. As a journalist, the first drug guy, the first strike was always going to be the first three strike. All that type of stuff, that hype and the drama that followed Ben Cousins. Have we become mature enough to get past that and make it a health issue as opposed to some scandal?
Well, I mean, I think we have, and for the past several years since we introduced that drug policy, I think the way in which it's being reported every year when we release the results, there is a more maturity now. You're right, we had to go to court to get injunctions to stop media organisations trying to, reveal details. We had people stealing medical records of players. It was hysterical, and I think that's where, as an industry, football hopefully has played some leadership role in saying, no, this is we take a medical model to this issue. It's about harm minimisation, it's about changing behaviour, it's about supporting individuals.
So both of you guys, how hard is it when you get populist politicians banging on about one strike and all the rest of it to make the difference between this being a situation that, if you're fair-minded and open-minded, that will happen when you've got 780 young men playing in high-risk age groups, that there will be some along the track that'll fall into this situation. How do we? Is that something we should be looking at, or should we just say, bad luck, you play AFL football, don't take drugs, you're out if you do it?
Well, I mean, I think, and we're guided by the experts, and they tell us that's just simply not effective. But I guess one of the things also is that because of the confidentiality, because of the fact that people need to be able to go at their own pace to change their behaviour, to deal with the issues that we've heard Gavin talk so openly about, there's got to be some empathy for that. But what we don't have is we don't have players kind of talking about that. It's only when someone like Gavin, we hear that story, that our heart goes out, that hopefully we all get an insight into that, and hopefully there's broader empathy for that.
John, Gav said that it started with alcohol for him, that he had an addictive personality that was in his genes, basically, that had been something passed down through the generations. What are the flags we have to look for? Let's go first of all, first drink situation, kids 15, 16, underage drinking, and then progressing through, milestone moments in their lives.
So I think for all of us as community, the first thing that we can do in community sport is get the culture right. And then, so that's why it's really important to manage alcohol really well. And we've got a program called Good Sports, 5,500 clubs around Australia, and that's helping clubs create a culture that stops this binge drinking. Look, I think the most important thing, and I know they're going to put the phone numbers up on the screen, the most important thing, if we're a parent, if we're a family member, or if we're someone with a drug problem, there's people out there who can support you. And I think that's the thing that came through from Gavin, is he wasn't quite sure where to go. There's a number of places right across Australia that will give people strategies how to deal with this issue. So as a parent, if you're concerned about your child's behaviour, you're concerned that their friends group's different, you might be concerned about what else is happening in their life, even you might be concerned because the length of your hose is decreasing. There's all those sort of signs.
So what are some of the things we should look at? When you say length of the hose, obviously you make a homemade bong from it or something.
Absolutely.
What are you laughing at over
that
there
sounds
for?
pretty funny.
Oh,
but
it's just an interesting way of looking at it. Yeah, it's exactly right though.
It is, yeah. So what sort of things?
So
The length of the hose, what else?
Yeah, there's all those practical things. Well, just look for behaviour. Look for, are the kids going out and having a big night and then not coming home? What's the messages in there? Are their friend group changing? What's going on at school? So the most important thing is for parents, arm yourself with some strategies and actually have a positive relationship with your kid. I think the other thing, though, Eddie, is for all of us, it's this role modelling piece. We're all parents. We've all got, might be involved in a community sport. It doesn't matter what we're involved in a workplace. There's a way to role model the use of legal drugs, alcohol, tobacco, pharmaceuticals. They're the things that actually help put boundaries around some of these issues for young people as well.
Gav, to underline that point and to go back on something you said during our interview earlier tonight, when you felt that there was somebody to talk to, that you could actually come clean, it was almost like even in the interview your shoulders dropped and you relaxed. It was palpable there. Can you just give us an insight into that again?
Well, it's years and years and years of hidden use. It's just, as you said, it's lying to yourself as much as everyone else. It was just so freeing to be able to allow someone in to what was going on inside me. Really, really freeing, and that helped me. That gave me such a positive outlook to start my recovery. It obviously doesn't guarantee anything, but to be able to have that straight away, it just gave me a really good positive push into recovery, which I'm 17 months into now.
And what do you want to do now with your wife and kids that you look back now and say, well, I didn't do that in the first part of my life? What's the things that you look back now and say, this is what I want to get hold of?
Look, and these are crazy little things, like just having dinner with the kids. Yeah. As I said before, the last 3 or 4 years was a fairly heavy workload and wasn't home a lot, but just having dinner with the kids and having a good conversation with the kids just about anything. And I think in regards to the awareness and opening this up for other families, like that communication, and we're probably not in the situation quite yet with the age of our children, but I speak to people about open communication and not judging your kids with what they're doing. I'm not quite sure on the stats on what kids try and so forth, but it's so prevalent out there. You just got to be careful on how you approach these kids if you do question them or you do doubt them with something as well. And it's a very, very important thing, is that open communication. And it doesn't guarantee anything, but at least it gives you a fair chance or a good chance to see some things through.
Matt, one thing we can't do is hold everyone's hand and live their life for them. From the Players Association point of view, we've had John McCarthy tragically dying last week on an inter-season trip, and alcohol was involved there. Gav said that he was introduced to speed basically after a grand final, certainly the second time he took speed. Where does this culture that we still have, what do we do? Because, people still got to be able to live. Yeah. But what do we do? I don't know if there's an answer, but what's your thoughts at the moment on all this?
Oh, look, it's certainly something which, I think about a lot, and we can't ignore the aspects of the culture of football which are risky, and that is that footballers are under a lot of scrutiny. It's a very regimented, very disciplined life, and there's times when it's not so. And research that we've done even around alcohol use amongst players, does indicate to us that what we need to do is to make sure that we then give players some ownership, give them the information to be armed with that around what are the risks, and then the strategies to try and be able to work through that. It's not going to happen overnight, Ed, but we're doing a fair bit of work in that space.
What's the next step as far as the Players Association is concerned in this situation?
Well, look, Ed, it's interesting. Some of the work that we're doing right now is really to try and bring this conversation around well-being and help players to build coping skills, resilience. we're doing work with leadership groups to how they can identify perhaps a young man in their team who might be struggling, some of the changes in behaviour, some of the things which John's alluded to, and how we can actually help the players to bring those to the surface and then encourage some helping behaviours. So that's the direction that we're taking, because that's whether it's alcohol, whether it's drugs, whether it's gambling, whether it's stress, anxiety, getting over an injury, how we can actually provide a more supportive environment to help players go through those experiences.
All right, thanks, guys. Gav, stick with us, mate. We'll come back and wrap up what has been a huge night tonight on EMT, facing head-on some of the big issues that we have in society with a bloke who's shown absolute courage. He did it on the ground. He's done it tonight on EMT. We'll wrap up with him right after this. Second time he took speed. Where does this culture that we still have? I mean, what do we do? Because I mean, people still got to be able to live. Yeah. But what do we do? I don't know if there's an answer. But what's your thoughts at the moment on all this? Oh, look,
it's certainly something which I think about a lot, and we can't ignore the aspects of the culture of football which are risky, and that is that footballers are under a lot of scrutiny. It's a very regimented, very disciplined life, and there's times when it's not so. And research that we've done even around alcohol use amongst players, does indicate to us that what we need to do is to make sure that we then give players some ownership, give them the information to be armed with that around what are the risks, and then the strategies to try and be able to work through that. It's not going to happen overnight, Ed, but we're doing a fair bit of work in that space.
What's the next step as far as the places? Welcome back to EMT as we wrap up what's been an extraordinary night with Gavin Crosisca. Gav, can I ask you, after all that, I mean, it's been a long time in the making, this show, how do you feel?
Oh, look, I hope the message gets out there in regards to my history and my experiences, and that is about awareness and making it okay for people to go and find help. I think that's been a really key thing that kept me away. And I needed an intervention for me to get help. And I hope that some people are out there. Look, I think about families. I just think about the loved ones of people that are in a whole pile of pain that can do things to actually help them and themselves.
Was it harder than you thought, sitting here?
It was extremely tough, Eddie.
It was. Mate, it was really hard for you. I felt for you, mate, because I couldn't imagine what it's like. It's hard enough asking the questions, far less having to give the answers. But we really appreciate what you've done tonight. It's been a brave thing for you to do. I'd like to thank Nicole and your family for supporting you to come on here tonight, and for you to step forward the way you have. Might just save a few lives down the track, mate. And I think it's been fantastic. One of the courageous things you've ever done.
Thanks, Eddie.
Sincerely, thank you, mate. Gavin Crosisca, tonight our special guest on EMT. We'll join you next week at 8:30 for a grand final edition. Hope you've enjoyed the show. Hope you've learned something tonight from a bloke who's put everything on the line for us tonight to just explain his life and how he's going to take the step forward and maybe take us with him. Thanks for joining us tonight on EMT.
This has been a Fox Footy production.